You enjoyed lunch and met a lot of people. We're trying to push people back in here to get started, so we have to keep more or less on schedule. I'm really happy about this next session. We read the research by Dr. Taga, and we really like what he's said about telecom. He's been studying innovation with phone carriers in Europe, and brings not just a European perspective, but also a global perspective to it. And he's got some really recent information and data to present to us on the subject. So we're going to learn a little bit more from Arthur D. Little, Dr. Karim Taga. He's going to talk to us about telcos and innovation. Dr. Taga. All right. Cheers.
Thanks. Is it on? Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I know it's a difficult time after lunch to listen to a consultant. I'll do my best to keep it short. Well, Arthur Little, as you know, is the first management consulting company. We have been established in 1886 in Massachusetts. And one way of staying young and agile is obviously to be in this space like you are. So myself, I've been 18 years now with the company. I wrote a book almost now 13 years ago on startup after the bubble. And I'm still very active in this domain as we seek ourselves for innovation, and what's a better platform than working with you guys, either the telcos who are now realizing that it's getting important given the disruption we're experiencing, to reestablish bridges with the startups, as well as startups coming to us and seeking also for support to get access to some top management of telcos. So basically in my presentation I would be focusing on 3 areas. I only have a few minutes. The first one is to give some of framework about the corporations, why telcos need this innovation, where do they need it, highlight some of the challenges, and at the end of the day giving some structure of all these disruptive interaction we experience these days. What is interesting for me is that the representative of the telcos today that we're sitting here and judging some of the startups are not at all representative, I can tell you. The majority of the telcos are still thinking how to establish these bridges, how to cooperate with you. They're far away from thinking that this is relevant for them. They have not understood yet that the kids around the block are really becoming relevant and important and disruptive. So one of my, let's say, major activity is to evangelize and make them understand how important this is. And I hope that you will help me as well with the publication we have today and some slides I will show you to convey this message. Some of the major brands are missing. CEOs, which I will not mention now, still say we're wasting our time. Let's focus on our core business, and if we do innovation, it has to be in-house or with a classical vendor. So there is a lot of work to do. Obviously, this has been around for many years. Nothing is new for you. If you look at these brands on the left side, the different vehicles they have developed the last years around venture capital fund, you call it Accelerator, Garage, Incubator, they all have made some effort and put some vehicles around innovation programs. So not many have yet succeeded. There are some exceptions, of course, but we need to really understand whether this is just kind of Me Too structure, looking to basically sponsor and get into the business, or how far they're getting into creating value together with startups. And I think if you're a startup, look exactly what success rate and what stories they have behind these vehicles so far before you waste your time in going forward. But many of these operators obviously are changing their mind. It's a mindset story, it's an attitude, and it starts from the very top. Now, this has been around for many years. This is not new for you. In the 60s already, 25% of the Fortune 500 has started CVCs. You have bubble up and down, and what you could see right now that there is an acceleration. Things are happening now, so a lot of disruption. We talk about so far 1,100 CVCs globally, and just the last 5 years, we talk about half of them almost emerged, and we talk about 40% of the transaction are now thanks to these vehicles. So it's happening. Why they're doing it, I think you know the reason: gain access to manage, to perhaps get an upside through an open innovation model, manage the downside. You all recall the story with WhatsApp when some of the European operators lost in 1 quarter 25% of their revenue on SMS. All of a sudden they realized that they had to change the business model. All of a sudden they have realized that actually selling SMS, voice separately would not, let's say, further create value in the future. So change completely the pricing model to bundle packages, so flat rates, where data become dominant, whatever you use as a service on top of it. So the key question is always the struggle between innovation in terms of value creation for new services, or thinking of just returns as a financial institution would do. So on the lower side, you will see that you have the x-axis talking about the financial objectives. So many operators are still figuring that out, what's the objective in terms of financial returns. And I would say that their operator would not add much value in this industry. I think this is not the purpose of driving this ecosystem with startups. I think it's much more important to look at the y-axis, which is intending to co-create value together. And then the question is, what's your ambition level? So on the bottom left, most of the operators are already active. Some kind of alibi, some kind of sponsorship, be part of a creation idea process. But very few have managed successfully to go in one of the three directions I'm showing on this slide. And I think it's very important for you, again, to look at what is your key ambition and where you want to succeed. The three challenges we see are clearly on these three elements. First of all, seeking. So how to energize the operator-startup collaboration. It starts with the first step. So what I like about this conference and about this event is that now we are changing the logic of startups going to pitch for telcos to telcos coming here and presenting themselves. And actually, from what I saw today, I still believe that there is a long way to go, because today you come and show what are your requirements, show, so to say, what you expect startups to bring to you. I haven't seen yet, and this is not a critique, so to say, but still a way to go forward. Many telcos have to learn to pitch and going much further down the road, showing what they need, but how they will help startups to succeed. So show you the journey with them and show you some case studies, some examples, because you're pitching, but others also are pitching. So you need to become, so to say, attractive for them, work on your value proposition, as venture capitalists do today. So this is still a process and a mindset that need to, particularly for the incumbent operator, I'm looking at Telecom Italia here, right? This is something you need to work upon, right? So seeking, instead of classical sourcing, you need to put effort there. You need to make yourself attractive. Second, scale. So beyond the sponsorship, how would you enable the startups, so to say, to scale with your operation and bring it together? There are some success stories, and the best, of course, would be to sustain the long-term relationship while embedding the value you create together in the core business of an operator. AT&T is definitely very successful. If you think of applications like e-health or digital home, the core product today is definitely enriched and proposed to any customer they have thanks to their partnership with selective startups. So that is the three steps and the three challenges you need to think upon. Now, in a much bigger context, any large corporation, we're talking about telecom in particular here, they need to rethink the business model in terms of how to become a digital company, right? And this is a framework we have developed recently, where you see that telecom operators, starting with the first bullet on the very top, digital front end, they have to rethink the business model completely, because it's been disrupted. They need to rethink their product and service. I'm very glad today to have seen so many operators showing their interest not in the classical technology. We know that NFV is important, the virtualization for sure. We know that 5G is coming. You're looking, this is the classical approach. But many of you were talking about customer experience. We're talking about new experience in the retail. We're talking about entertainment, new services, rather than technology. So there is a mindset shift as well we're experiencing here. And this is very important. This will help telcos to succeed in the third one, which is the customer experience and value. So then you have the digital enabling layer and the digital engine. So in any of these layers, telcos should think of where they should partner. And startups at the same time need to understand where is the focus area. Perhaps I'm at the bottom of the pyramid, perhaps I'm at the very top. Let me give an example. in other industries, insurance, for instance, Fanfare is a startup that actually helps insurance company to disrupt their business model. So imagine yourself, you're successful in a business, and you hire a startup company that comes and come up with a new business model, a solution that totally disrupts your own business model. So the attitude of the CEO is to say, before someone else disrupts my business model, let me invest and bring a company that would do that for me. And they're very successful in insuring your friends. So basically, if you want to insure your car, you have 5 or 7 or 10 friends that will do that for you. And it's a crowdfunding model, very interesting. So this gives you a perspective on where you can start to interact and participate in this open innovation business model. Others, like Matchmaker, are going to startups and actually helping them to connect with telcos and have a revenue share with once the deal is done, right? So for instance, they would go to telco and ask exactly what is the particular area you want to be innovative and succeed, and they will find for you the startups. So a lot of things are happening today at all levels, from the business model down, as we saw a lot of examples today, on the operation and IT. Now, for both, for startups and for telco, it's very important for you to understand where you are in your process. On the x-axis, you see that startups may be the idea creation process, proof of concept, up to go-to-market. I think you need to see, from a telco perspective now, from the corporate, the readiness index, how far they are in letting startups, so to say, connect to the core business and access to the main asset of the corporation. And based on that, there is an entry point where it makes sense to proceed. So you should do some due diligence on both sides to see whether you access the startup and integrate them in the first stage, and there are some companies who are doing that, or others who are rather have adjusted their business model and achieved a readiness index that is much more, so to say, mature, where you just partner when you have a sustainable business model already. So for you, for both sides, it's very important to understand where you are before you start the cooperation. Now, I'm bringing Swisscom as one of the best practices in Europe and perhaps worldwide for 2 reasons. First of all, it's a small country. As you know, Switzerland is not much bigger than Austria, where I'm coming from. And this shows that a small incumbent operator on a global scale can be very innovative and also can extract a lot of value by partnering. So it's not a matter of size. You don't need to be AT&T or Docomo to think of innovation and partner with startups. And what I like in this model, besides the fact that they're successful, more than 50 participations in all kind of manner, corporations as well, commercial deals, the innovation is spread around the whole organization. So it's not one division. It's not a digital customer-facing unit. It's across all the business unit, across the whole corporation. And what we extract as a strategic, let's say, benefit is they have a clear, centralized portfolio with a picture where they're looking for synergy and where they're looking for innovation. They have one single point of contact. And perhaps you will not see that in many corporations because also of the size perhaps, but this is very important, where to enter. Then you have a clear business sponsor. So for every idea or every stage of the corporation, you will have a different person. So it's not the same. It could be the CTO, it could be the CFO, it could be the head of the line of a business unit, etc. Then they have this spirit of company factory. So if you are a startup, they will find out what's the best place for you to get connected, to get enabled as well. And last but not least, it's overall an entrepreneurial spirit. So I can speak a lot about Swisscom. I think there is a representative here that can share more. But this is for us one of the best practices that other telco can learn from. So to finalize, first thing is that innovation is not something that is separate. It has to be totally integrated in the corporate strategy. And we discussed that before. In every digital transformation of the telco, we believe that this has to have a very important place. Second, we should forget about the classical sourcing. You should seek for collaboration, and for that you have to make yourself strong, look beautiful, and provide all the necessary ingredients, show you the key success factor for the partner. You have to pitch, it's a real pitch. Provide scale. I think it's pretty clear what I meant with that. But not least, make sure that you have a sustainable relationship that will evolve, because remember, startups do not want to remain as startups. Startups want to become a real large corporation as well. So don't treat them the first day as you would be treating them in a couple of years down the road if you successfully manage to scale with them and to develop the business. And last but not least, no silos. So silos, I think it's very important to have an accelerated transformation program, as I was showing before, innovation across the whole organization. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. We have issued today a report on that. This is just a high-level summary with all the details. It's roughly 20 pages. If you go to LinkedIn and connect to me, Karim Taga, you can download the report directly. It's my last post that I made this morning. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thanks, Karim. I have a couple of questions for you. First, I love the report because I think I agree with so much of what you said. In fact, is Gregory in the room by any chance from Swisscom? I know he's at the conference today, so he's not here. We can't point him out. But I also use them as an example. And I think one of the advantages that they had to get to the place where they are right now is the size of the country. The fact that it's a small country, they never had the ability to say we can invent it all. But if you go to an AT&T, who has a history of Bell Labs, I mean, and not to single them out today, because they're actually pretty good with the founding and other things, but they had this massive history of not invented here and developed, R&D resources to invent it. So they actually invested in doing it here. If you're a Swisscom, you were never really in exactly that place. So I've noticed that these secondary markets, like you say, Canadian carriers, or in the US, like a US cellular corporation, often have adopted these kind of policies you've got sooner than the largest companies who had a history of R&D. So are you seeing the same thing around the world?
Absolutely. Very often innovation is inhibited internally because you have powerful R&D people who are sourcing human capital and trying to do everything by themselves for many reasons, for security, for you name them. Yep. But at the end of the day, the speed of what's happening in terms of disruption globally, you cannot compete with.
Right.
So,
and I think even if you spin that off, it leaves a culture, right?
The whole point is that we don't believe that digital transformation or let's say innovation can be put aside of an organization. It doesn't work. Yep. If you think strategically, you have to inherently embrace all the elements of digital transformation with all the levers I've showed before and innovation everywhere. It's not a silo approach. It doesn't work. We haven't seen that. Right. Otherwise, the WhatsApp, the Instagram, etc., would have come one day from a telco. We haven't seen that. Right.
And I think, you kind of taught me something too, because I feel like we keep, as an industry, the telecoms keep getting better and better. But it's true that I'm looking at, one side of the ecosystem. And there's a whole variety of carriers globally who aren't here, aren't in Silicon Valley, aren't in Israel, right?
Thankfully, this is my job. Yes. If everything would have been perfect, consulting would not have a space. But we are very, what I said initially, this is a very exclusive, I would say, community, and this is not representative of the industry. The majority are by far not even clear where they want to innovate, why they want to innovate, and what kind of return they would expect in terms of financially or strategic competitive advantage. So we still have a lot of work to do.
Right. So I don't want to pick on any particular region, but I'll just grab an example region, not to pick. Let's say Africa. Okay, South Africa, fairly developed. It's got a bunch of carriers like MTN and people operating there. But I don't hear a lot about them in the innovation community. So once again, I don't want to pick on any particular carrier, but is it because they're in these smaller developing markets that they're pulling up the rear? Is it because of a lack of awareness of the tech? What's the reason why they would be isolated from the innovation community?
I think Colin would definitely talk about that later on from Orido Group. They have a lot of experience there. But I can tell you that Africa for me was always a source of inspiration. If you think of what happened in M-Payment, for instance, with M-Pesa and many other services in the healthcare, etc., they've been extremely advanced. The difference between Western and, I would say, African countries is very much that the brand of the telecom operator is very often so powerful in terms of role in the economy that if the regulation allows them to go beyond, so to say, their core business, they do miracle. And I've seen that many times. I mean, if you think of Safaricom, this is the only company in the world that managed to double the share of revenue from SMS in payment. There is no other example. Remember, SMS was being seen as the biggest, so to say, source of revenue after voice, and they did that after 4 years of operation, right? So I would not underestimate the energy. If you go to Afghanistan with Koshan as well, extremely successful also innovation model, but they're not represented here for other reasons. The innovation is happening locally.
And so, I can't claim that here is everyone will be here, but look at something massive like Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Do we expect a lot of the carriers to be catching up, like culturally, to this partnering notion? And in what kind of time frame would the global, are these other ones going to start being on board?
I think it's a process, a journey. So some operators would focus very much on differentiating in terms of premium, and they would have to seek for innovation by building bridges outside the company or the country. Others will definitely follow a model of low-cost operation, providing the strict minimum to consumer, and they will go along with that. So we will not expect everybody to be on board, but the majority will join the wagon stage by stage. I think we're all working on toward this direction, right, Alex?
So my last point is in defense of Luigi, Telecom Italia, and all the people who came up. We gave them a very short amount of time to speak, 2 minutes, and we told them which 2 slides to show. So they were put in that category.
Of course, I'm here to tease them a bit, to tell them, guys, go to the next stage, make yourself look the best.
But,
thank you, Luigi.
But we'll hear throughout the day and tomorrow from a lot of carriers who will bring up the case studies you're talking about. But to your point, these are kind of these are the best innovation capture carriers worldwide who have these success stories to talk about. So the lesson is that there's everybody has a lot of progress to make. The best can progress, and there's a big group that needs to come along as well.
Make yourself more known, Luigi.
Yeah, some more than others, right? Good.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Great speech. Thank you. All right. So next up, we're going to kind of get into the longer form. We're going to start having some discussion.